So, we do have some updates, and this is kind of interesting. Not necessarily the kind of updates that we thought we would be seeing here out of the Vancouver Canucks, but today we are talking about a guy that has been a beloved fan favorite as the longest tenured Vancouver Canuck on the roster. On the roster? It's not July 1st yet. He's still on the roster. Today we're talking about Burnsville, Minnesota's own, the Robin to JT Miller's Batman. We're going over the latest in terms of Brock Boeser. And I have been very critical of Brock for most of the calendar year because I think last year really showed us just the upper ceiling of what Brock Boeser is capable of as a hockey player. He had scored 40 points. He had 40 goals, Had way more points than that. 73-point campaign, 40 goals, and this season he dropped off to 50 points in 75 games played. A down year compared to the year that was last. And even though this previously completed season is more in line with the point production that Boeser was getting normally, the fact that he had 40 last year, the fact that management said that Brock could have gotten 50, and the fact that this was a contract year really put a lot of expectations through the roof for Canucks fans. Hey, he's going to go out there and do it again. The Vancouver Canucks are going to have all the success because they were so good last year, and then they're going to build off of it and have an even better year next year. And unfortunately, the only guy who had seemed to have gotten better from last year to this year was Quinn Hughes. Okay, you could say Nils Åman got better too. But the magnitude as to how much these guys get better, it's pretty wild when you consider that Pettersson fell off, Boeser fell off, Miller fell off, Demko was not available. I mean, it's so challenging to think about how the Canucks went from as good as they were last year to how poorly they performed this year. And Brock Boeser doing all this in a contract year, and then rejecting an $8 million by 5-year deal, it does paint a very bad picture in a lot of Canucks fans' mouths. Now, sure, the management isn't doing that great of a job at making some of these concerns wane. We saw Patrik Allvin essentially disrespect Brock Boeser after the trade deadline, talking about how Brock's value was not really there, comically quipping about how, if I told you what the offers were for Brock, I'd have to walk out of the room. And that was seen as a really big hiccup in the potential relationship between Brock and the Vancouver Canucks. Like, hey, if Patrik Allvin is willing to talk about his guy like this in the media, what is he saying behind the scenes in their contract negotiations? Just how low are the Canucks going? With that offer, though, $40 million, 5-year deal, and for Boeser to say no to that, it does paint a pretty grim picture as to what Boeser wants. And with the AFP Analytics contract model suggesting that Boeser should or could get an $8.4-ish million AAV contract, it had a lot of Canucks fans in the reply saying, okay, I love you, Brock, but that's a little bit too much. For a guy who can score, as he has, but for a guy who also is very slow and who doesn't drive his own line and who really needs the support of a play-driving center to succeed, this is where you start asking about the details. Hey, is Brock really worth that amount of money? He could probably get that on another team, right? But the Vancouver Canucks may not be in the position where giving him that kind of money is all too, I don't know what's the right word, sustainable or appropriate. It would be an overpay. With that in mind, the fact that we saw Brock Boeser hit the free agent market, or he hasn't hit it yet, but he will hit the free agent market, and the sentiment behind the Vancouver management essentially being, hey, Brock, if you want to get the money, go ahead. We won't stop you. You can go to free agency, and you can see what's out there, and you can sign for as much money as you want. But if you don't get what you want, feel free to come back to Vancouver and we'll negotiate again, because we would want to have you, but, yeah, if you think you can get more money elsewhere, good luck. That seems to have been the way Vancouver management has approached this situation here with Brock, and now we're getting ourselves some updates as to what the scoop actually is. You had Patrick Johnston speaking on Sekeres and Price earlier this morning, talking about how Brock is a guy who's going to be very interested to see who the next coach is. if there's any hope here. And that quote is, it's pretty big. Does seem like Brock Boeser and the way this team will be coached is going to play some sort of an impact as to whether or not he decides to come back. One of the quotes from this video, I think there is interest. There is absolutely interest in Boeser re-signing with Vancouver. But I think Boeser, he's a guy that's very interested to see who the coach is. If there's any hope here. I think if Tocchet had come back, I think there's a better chance that Boeser would have come back too. I think he and Rick had quite a good relationship, Johnston said. And some of the reactions to this are mixed. Some are saying, yeah, well, if he gets $8 million, $8.1 million, then that's already too much. We can let him go at that point, just get somebody cheaper and use the extra cap savings to improve the team elsewhere. But then there's the other opposing argument that says, okay, well, if Boeser, let's say he doesn't get 8.7 or whatever on the open market. Let's say the contract offers from other NHL teams and free agency are a little bit lax compared to what he specifically wanted. If that's the case, if Brock is not able to get what he wants, then would he settle going over to Vancouver and just kind of letting things roll out over here, no matter the dollar amount that Vancouver gives him? I don't know necessarily if that $8 million per 5 years contract is still on the table here. It seems like it had been pulled away, but I don't know. I'd rather spend $8 million on other players. That's just kind of the way I'm thinking about it. $8 million for one Brock Boeser, or $8 million for a $5 million depth guy who can provide 20 goals on a year, and another $3 million guy who can be a suitable bottom six option. Like, Brock, I don't think is good enough, or he was good enough this previous season, to fully entrust that price tag into him when you consider what that money could bring you elsewhere on the roster. You know, like if Brock was scoring 40 goals a year, then it'd be like, yeah, fine, give him 8.5. That's a great number for that player. But he scored 25. He's been a 20-goal scorer every single year of his career, spare last year. And there were a bunch of other years where he would have been on pace for more goals, had he played the full season, etc., etc. That's fine, you can acknowledge that. But for the most part, Brock has been in this territory. He had an outlier year last year where JT Miller had 100 points setting him up, and he was clutch in the playoffs. Is that showing from 1 year ago enough to earn him an $8-point-something million AAV deal for the next 7 or 8 years? Now, I just don't know. So we'll see whether or not the coaching staff decision does play into Boeser's decision to return. We'll see whether or not the Canucks have a Marco Sturm or Manny Malhotra as the head coach in the next week or so. That seems to be the way the tea leaves are falling down at this stage, so keep your eyes peeled for that. We will pay attention to Brock Boeser as well as the offseason commences and goes on. If Brock signs an $8.5 million AAV by 7-year deal on day one of free agency, then okay, good for him. Nice to see him getting the bag that he wanted. But if he doesn't end up signing right away in free agency, we may have ourselves an opportunity to see him maybe lower his ask. I'm not really too sure. If teams are not going to give you what you want, then you just have to acquiesce at some point. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.